All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to deconstruct, well, pretty much everything you've been told about success, happiness, and what it means to be free. We're looking at a philosophy that challenges the very foundations of our lives and asks a really tough question. Are those foundations actually supporting you, or are they holding you captive?
So the author, Su Feng, kicks things off with this bombshell. A life that sees the outcome is the most tragic. Wow, right? I mean, think about it. We live in a world that is obsessed with outcomes. The 5-year plan, the exit strategy, the end goal, and he's saying that focusing on that finish line is the single most tragic mistake you can make. So what on earth does he mean by that?
Okay, this brings us to part 1, the fallacy of the finish line. This is the author's first major point, that our relentless focus on results isn't just wrong, it's a trap. It's a way of thinking that literally drains the meaning out of our lives.
So let's break this down. On one side, you've got the process. This is the journey itself, right? The messy, beautiful, painful, amazing experience of living. It's where you grow. On the other side, you've got the outcome, a single, fleeting moment that, let's be honest, is often a letdown. And the author makes this really stark point. The ultimate outcome for every single one of us is death. If that's the only thing you're focused on, you're going to miss the entire part.
Now, this might sound a little abstract, but check this out. He gives a powerful, real-world example from his own community. They built these incredible, beautiful homes, putting in tons of work. But here's the kicker. They did it knowing full well the houses were going to be destroyed. You have to ask, why would anyone do that? Because for them, the house was never the point. The point was the process, the experience of creating something together. That was the real reward.
So this idea of loving the process over the prize leads us right into the next big concept. Part 2, the chains of attachment. The author argues that our deep-seated need to have and to hold on to things is what truly imprisons us. And to really get this, we need to understand a key distinction he makes. He talks about 2 kinds of life. First, there's wrenching. That's your human life, the day-to-day grind, the job, the bills, the drama. Then there's shengming. That's the bigger picture, the eternal journey of your soul. His argument is that we get so completely lost in the drama of wrenching that we totally forget about the far more important journey of shengming.
And he has this perfect analogy. All that worldly success we chase, the money, the status, it's like a delicious-looking bait for a fish. It looks so good. And for that one moment when the fish bites down, it feels like a victory. But what happens next? It gets hooked. It gets reeled in. It has traded its freedom for a fleeting taste of the prize.
And this brings us to this little story that just captures this whole tragic cycle. So picture a bunch of young people, all excited to climb a mountain for the amazing view. On the way up, they pass an old man coming down. He warns them, hey, the view, it's not what you think. It's not worth it. But they're young. They don't listen. So they keep climbing. And they finally reach the top. Only now they're old too. And they realize the old man was right. So what do? They head down and guess who they meet? A new generation of young climbers. And they give the exact same warning. And the kids don't listen. The cycle just repeats forever. Okay, so if we shouldn't be attached to goals, what about our stuff? The things we spend our lives accumulating? Well, that brings us to part 3, the weight of ownership. And it all boils down to one simple question. Do you own your things, or do they own you? I love this analogy he uses. He says, think of life as a long train ride. We're all just passengers. We buy a ticket, we get on board, we watch the scenery go by, and eventually we get off at our stop. No one in their right mind would think they need to buy the entire train just to take a trip. That's absurd, right? So why, he asks, do we spend our lives trying to do exactly that?
Let's make this really concrete with his example of a house. Conventionally, we think buying a house is the smart move. It's security, it's an asset, but in his view, from the perspective of the soul's journey, it's a trap. You sink all your money into it, you're physically tied to one spot, it becomes a burden. Renting, on the other hand, or just using what you need, keeps you and your resources free. It lets you keep moving to keep experiencing the journey.
So the core idea here is this wild paradox. The less you own, the more you truly possess. By letting go of that desperate need to have and to hold, you actually free yourself up to experience the whole world without all the stress and anxiety that comes with ownership.
So we've deconstructed goals, we've deconstructed ownership, and what's left is the ultimate prize, absolute freedom. But if it's so great, why isn't everyone free? What's standing in our way? That brings us to part 4, the 8 barriers to freedom. And here they are. According to the author, these are the bars of our prison. Now, some of these you'd expect. Debt, money, sure. But then you see things like nation, family, marriage. I mean, these are the cornerstones of our society. And it's important to understand, he's not saying these things are inherently evil. He's saying our attachment to them, all the expectations, duties, and identities they force on us, is what limits our freedom.
I mean, that is a truly radical takedown of modern life. So if all these fundamental structures are the problem, what's the alternative? Well, he doesn't just leave us with the critique. He actually proposes a solution, which leads us to part 5, a new model for living.
He calls it the second homeland. And this isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a real-world community designed from the ground up to try and function without those 8 barriers. The entire goal is to create a space where people can live a life of what he calls total freedom, both in their day-to-day lives and on a spiritual level. And get this isn't some fly-by-night experiment. The author claims this community has been successfully operating for 13 years. For him, this is the living proof. It's his evidence that a life free from those conventional structures we all take for granted isn't just possible, it might actually be a more fulfilling way to live.
And that leaves us right here with this final, really challenging question. Everything we've looked at today forces us to reconsider the very things we think give our lives meaning and stability: our jobs, our homes, our relationships. The author's work puts the question right in front of us. Are these things really the cornerstones of a good life, or are they the bars of a cage we just haven't learned to see?